I stopped in Bryant Park and I cried. I sat on a bench and I cried. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And so I went home and I talked to Brianna and I said, I want to restart the podcast because I'm a creative guy. I want to do something creative.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the inaugural episode of the Podcast Operator series that will be hopefully recording all over the world, interviewing podcast studio founders and operators and sharing their stories, experiences, and hopefully answering the question on where the future of this industry stands. I'm not sure how to say, but it feels so special being here in New York City, in Gotham Studios, with Brianna and Matt, after a number of years of me looking at what these guys are doing in New York City and feeling like, hey, hopefully we're going to get there one day. Now being in 2025 and being here in the studio feels so special. So thank you guys for having us. It's really amazing.
Very happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you guys. It means a lot.
Yeah.
When everything was starting, it was like, where do all the coolest, best things happen? Like pre New York, right? And let's look at what's going on in New York. Oh, there's one thing, Gotham.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I remember the day exactly. And New York was always, no matter what we were building in over the previous 15 years, you always look at a few cities around the world, right?
Yeah, New York, London.
You look at New York, maybe LA, and then London, and then on the other parts of the world, Hong Kong, Singapore, and so on. Now recently Dubai as well, I guess.
Yeah.
It's getting on the map. But it's special being here. Thank you for having us. Why don't we start with, you guys are one of the, let's say, quote unquote, oldest podcast studios in this business model that we know, and I'm sure around the world. This business model hasn't been really growing until recently, right? The whole industry started growing, and there is a number of studios popping now. But back when you started, it was a completely different story. So we would like to hear more about those humble beginnings. How did you even decide to start Gotham Production Studios? And did you even know what you were getting yourself into?
I give Matt all the credit, and I also give him all the blame for how we ended up here. So I'll let him take us off because he's the reason why we're here today.
Well, it's 2014. We have to go back even more. 2014, I worked a horrible job. I was a data entry guy at a real estate company, sitting at a computer all day, just typing away. And I was bored, out of my mind, bored. And I went to school for marketing and public relations and stuff like that. But I needed a job, so I just took whatever job I could find. And I needed something to do to keep my mind from withering away. And so I found podcasts, and I had a backlog of 1,000 episodes of Joe Rogan, and I listened to Penn Sunday School was a big one. Radio shows like Opie and Anthony out of New York, and I just was 8 hours a day just listening to podcasts. And then I was like, I can do that. It doesn't seem that hard to make a podcast. How hard is it? So I was did a lot of research into it. Talked to one of my friends, and I was like, you like listening to the Joe Rogan podcast too? Let's do Joe Rogan podcast. So I bought the equipment and bought too much equipment and put it in our apartment. And every week I would set it up. We'd do an hour, 2 hours every week, and then take it all down, put it in our little 1-bedroom apartment. And we did that for about a year and a half. The episodes are still on YouTube somewhere. I'm not going to say the name of the show because I don't want people to watch it.
Cringe.
Yes, very much. We actually live streamed the show because we thought we were cool.
Live cringe.
We were live streaming our horrible show.
Yeah.
We interviewed guests and stuff. It was really weird. One of my co-host actually got broken up with his girlfriend from one of the episodes we recorded. It was funny. Actually, Brianna was a guest on the show once. We did
Is that how you met?
No. That goes back even further.
But she was on an episode where it was like a dating game show, like the Newlywed Game. So there's a funny episode out where we're answering questions on a dating show. So then fast forward a couple of years, the job I worked for, I got a new job, which was less boring. So I had less time for podcasts. And then they transferred me, or I applied for a new position in the New York office because we always want to live in New York. and I couldn't afford to get here without somebody else paying for it. So they transferred me to New York, and I gave up the podcast because my friend was still in Rochester, where we're from, and we lived in a 300 square foot apartment. So there's no room to put up anything. We barely had a bedroom. We didn't have a bedroom. It was a studio apartment, walk up, not too far, actually 2 blocks away from here.
Yeah.
So I gave up the podcast and said I can't do it anymore. A couple more years of just being like, the new job I worked at was a sales job. I sold health insurance. So that's another version of horrible, being rejected every day by people. I actually, one of the things that like spurned me to going this direction was I had made a big sale, huge sale, best sale ever in my career. It was a bookstore, one of the big bookstores, that's the Strand bookstore. I sold them health insurance. It's a big deal, big commission check. A couple weeks later, I get a phone call from the owner, and she calls me down to their office. Office is in 30 Rock. So I'm going to meet with her, and she's like, "Oh, we can't do it anymore." She's rescinding the sale. I walked back to my office, which was, again, it's on 36th Street. So this whole area is like a lot of memories for me. I've stopped in Bryant Park, and I cried. I sat on the bench, and I cried. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And so I went home, and I talked to Brianna, and I said, I want to restart the podcast because I'm a creative guy. I want to do something creative. So I want to restart a podcast. This is a long story. I'm sorry. Edit it down. I wanted to restart the podcast. My friend Rochester was like, he's gone. I don't care about him anymore. He was friends through her friend. So I really like MMA and like UFC type stuff. So I was like, I want to start a podcast about that. So I just Googled gyms in New York and people that are related to it. I want to have like somebody on the show that was more like actually in MMA. So I found a guy who has a gym on 29th Street. And I met with him in 2017, and I said, let's do a podcast. He's like, let's do a podcast. Still doing that podcast to today. We're still rocking and rolling. And we lived in Brooklyn. So I'd get on the train, 45 minutes, bring a duffel bag full of microphones and mixers and cables and wires, and then go to his gym that had people grunting in the background and dropping weights and a lot of screaming and yelling. It was good ambiance, good sound design. And I'd set up everything. We'd record for an hour and a half, take everything down, get back on the train, go 45 minutes home. After a couple weeks of that, I said, I can't do this anymore.
A lot. I don't know if you're going to catch
I give up a lot.
I don't know if you're going to catch a theme of like, I just can't do this anymore.
I just can't do it. There's got to be a better way.
The next thing.
So we're talking, and I said, I'd love if there was like a space that I could just leave all my stuff and then just go there and record it. Like there's music studios. Why aren't there studios for recording other things? And the initial idea was let's find like 5 or 6 other people that want the same thing. Let's do a timeshare. We'll all go in together.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll all go in together on the rent. I'll have it on Tuesdays. You have it on Wednesdays, and it'll be cost effective. So let's do it. So we found a place in Chinatown. It was pretty decent, cheap rent. And then we started just like putting ads on Craigslist and was like, anybody want to record a podcast? Anybody want to come down and do this thing? So we had about... We still have the champagne cork from our first client that we sold. At that point, our rates were $15 an hour.
What did you say?
15.
Our idea was just to break even. So I didn't want to because we figured out how much the rent is, how many effective hours there were. Let's just break even. So we had a couple people come in, and I would be there to like let people into the space until we trusted them to give them keys and stuff. And then the first person comes in and they say, all right, I'm here for my podcast. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get like coffee or something. I'm like, wait, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to record a podcast. I was like, oh, great. All right, I'll do it. So then it just turned into us running a podcast studio.
Was it called Gotham at the time? Or?
It was Gotham Podcast Studio. That was Brianna's idea. She wanted something New York related.
But didn't say New York specifically. Yeah.
So then we did that for a while.
I said I couldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. Well,
it's got to cover.
It's like, and I was done.
We did that for a couple of weeks, and then our landlord said, we can't do this anymore. I remember
kicked us out.
What was that? I was at the studio recording because we were open till we didn't have hours at that point. We were just open whenever we were open. And I was recording a show, and it was like 5 guys that were like 20 years old, 22, just being 22-year-olds, drinking, yelling, being weird. Then she calls me and she says a landlord left a message on her phone that was very aggressive and like, you can't do this, you have to get out, and like all this stuff. And so we're like, all right, we're done. We can't. We actually got the official eviction letter when we were on the ice at Rockefeller Center for the tree lighting ceremony. And we got to open our email and it was like, oh, we've been evicted. And then the train ride back home was sad.
And guess what we did? We cried on the train ride home.
And so
a lot of tears in our
A lot
story.
of tears.
And again, sorry, long story. Then a friend of mine who was at the place I worked for selling health insurance, he was really into podcasting. And I told him the story. We were on a sales call and I told him the story and he was like, oh, that sounds cool. Well, how much money do you need to start up again? And I was like, well, I don't know. Let's look at places. And he's like, I'll give it to you. And it was $1,500. He gave us $1,500 to restart the studio. And then we started up again in 2018. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He during the pandemic, he had to find another job because just there was no revenue. So he found another job and he's happy.
He's flourishing.
He's selling stuff somewhere.
So
He's doing well.
Back to Matt and I.
Just us two.
It's listening to the story feels like we're talking about like 30 years ago.
It does,
It actually just for this industry 2018 17 feels like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It really does.
But it was really the response once we reopened. Like everybody that we had like maybe 8 clients when we first started, and then we closed a month later. And we told all of our clients, we're coming back. We're coming back in a couple months. Be with us. And they all came back. There's actually some of them are still recorded with us today. And when we reopened in January of 2018, it was fish in a barrel. Like we didn't spend money on advertising. It was like a month before I had to quit my job and work this full time.
And what I'm curious about it, what was the industry back in the day in New York? I mean, obviously over the last few years, social media exploded. So now you're producing not only podcasts, I'm sure it's like a lot of YouTube and social media, content. What was it like in New York in 2017 and 18? What was the average customer back then?
Average customer for us were creatives who were similar to Matt, who had a 9-to-5 job and were looking to break into a creative industry and field. And so they needed a place that was after their 9-to-5 and they could use their discretionary income to be able to afford a space. So that's why when we had started, Matt and I didn't even check to see if anybody else was doing what we were doing. We just started doing our own thing. It was all very natural and organic. And then when we did actually finally start looking at the competition, we're like, well, there's one place in Manhattan and there's one place in Brooklyn that has microphones rentable for people to the public. And they were charging upwards of $200 to $400 an hour for you to talk behind a microphone, no cameras.
And back in the day, cameras were not a thing, right?
Cameras were not a thing, yeah.
Just mics.
We were mics only. We had a webcam in the room in case, like, I don't know, we just needed to watch over people, but it wasn't for people to rent and use. So it was truly just audio. Podcast was an audio specific industry. And so when we found out that there are no other businesses offering, easy entry.
Turnkey.
Yeah, for a turnkey experience for the average New Yorker, which is a ton of creatives. A ton of creatives live here, but they're also not making a ton of money. So they needed a spot that could make them feel like they had everything they needed and also the potential to grow. We were growing and we were new and we were excited. And I think that kind of passed through and on to the clients. And I think that's why we still have a lot of the same clients still today. We've grown, we have, new clients, but there are some who wear it like a badge of honor, is that I was with them in 2018 when they had no cameras. And it's like, they love that glow up story with us. But the industry felt like there was no industry. If I'm being honest, it felt like we were on an island doing our own thing because there were no other podcast branded studios. They were music recording studios who set up a table and a couple mics and were charging people hundreds of dollars. And we were like, well, we don't have a blueprint to follow, but I know it's not that. So we just made our own.
Yeah, a new category.
Yep.
And looking back, it's been 6+ years now. What would you say worked really well, and based on that, and also the learnings of things that didn't work well, what has shaped your strategic decisions in terms of where you want to take Gotham? Because looking at where it is now versus 6 years ago, a lot of change. So there's got to be some like strategic decisions you made to shape Gotham into what it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things is that the fact that Matt and I have never been business owners before helped us a lot. Because I think when people would come into the space who are very business oriented in mindset, they tend to be like, you need to do this. You should be doing that. Here's how this should be set. And Matt and I have always had this very unique perspective of just like, we go with our gut a lot and we don't really let a lot of outside noise in. And I think that has helped us so much. Trying to come up in this space now is much different. And I wouldn't even know how we would have been able to survive a comparison game trying to open a studio in this day and age. We were blessed with our ignorance and our passion and our sense of self, I guess, back then, which helped us create a lot of the systems that you kind of see. And a lot of those things were just developed over time. And we have said this before and we'll always own up to it. Our greatest lessons and our greatest moments have come from our worst experiences and our worst product that we've delivered to people. We will never mess up another not having audio again, because we're always going to have a standard and a backup and probably a third backup of somehow recording audio, because we lost somebody's audio and that killed us inside to tell them that and to say that to them. You can never get that moment back. Podcasts can be somewhat replicated, but you'll never get that same conversation that you had that first time. So if you were the reason why it's not delivered to them, you're going to learn from that, and you're going to hopefully feel bad enough to make sure that you put the systems in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. And investments in our quality and our systems. Again, we started off with what we could. And then when it just wasn't working, when the first cameras we got were blurry because we're trying to work them in a room that doesn't work for them, we said we need to invest and get better cameras. And that's scary and that's challenging and that's terrifying when cameras are more and more expensive and you have to make that investment and that leap. And especially when it is just you two, there's no extra person putting in money for you. You're taking it from what you're earning and your savings. And so you have to really believe in the investment and believe in yourselves that you're going to be able to earn that plus back. But yeah, I think the reason why we look and feel and sound and are the way we are is because we have messed up along the way. And we said we never want to do that again.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But that's the best way of learning, right? I
Yeah.
mean, making mistakes. You've mentioned that at one point this became a business, right, Matt? You quit your job and then you joined full time and things started to get serious. What was that trigger? What do you think? What triggered that growth? What was that point where you became business, which also meant that you need to now manage it like a business?
Yeah. There was a lot of like small signs that it needed to be taken more seriously. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me is that there was a tour that was scheduled to look at the space to decide if they wanted to work with us. I was at work and I was like, I think I was in the Bronx, like far away. And Brianna luckily had a job that was like 2 blocks from the studio, and they were coming. They were coming to the
there.
studio.
We got a call.
They were there already.
Yes.
Like, where are you guys at?
Yeah,
Yep.
we got a call from the security, the front desk, and they
Yep.
said there's this person here that wants to look at your studio. And Brianna was like, all right, I'm taking lunch. I'm going to go over and look at it. I'm going to take care of it.
Yep.
And she did. And they ended up signing up and doing all that stuff with us. But like, there was just so much demand, I suppose. The demand was like, and we weren't making, like, I had a pretty good job. Like, the amount of money that was coming in from the studio was not more than I was making just working a regular job. But it was like, if this is going to be a thing, we need to make it a thing. And I hated my job. And so the other two, Mike, our third partner, and Brianna, like, I was more of like the guy that understood the technicalities of how to run a studio and like the microphone, signal chain, all that kind of stuff. So it was like, who's going to go? Well, it makes sense that I hate my job and I know how to do it. So let's have me be the first one
Perfect
to jump
match.
in. And so it was just that there was enough people that were asking to do studio stuff. And we were doing it like after hours, like after work, like 5 to 10. We were open
5 to 11.
Yeah, we were there till some midnight some nights. But then where people were like, I need a studio at 10 o'clock. And I was like, well, I can't tell my boss I have a meeting and then go downtown and record a podcast. So it was the demand that called for it. And yeah, it was a great experience to be able to like quit my job. And
what was your things were getting more serious? What was your biggest at the time business win? Probably it happened that you closed a deal or a creator. Like, do you remember any business wins from the time?
I'm gonna forget the name of the band. Oh man, Passion Pit.
Oh, that does sound right.
That feels right.
Yeah.
So there was a band that the lead singer was going to be a guest on a podcast, and the host had reached out to us, and he needed a studio, but he needed it like a specific time of day. And this is a band I've like listened to back when I was in late teens and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but we can't do it because we're not open. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. So I remember going in there and like being in the room and watching this like recording happen. It's just like those surreal moments when like things that from your past and you're like part of it and like you're in the background, but you're still part. This wouldn't have happened without us. Like it would have happened maybe somewhere else, or it wouldn't have been as good, whatever.
Not
but
in
like
the same way.
Yeah. So like those kind of moments are like the things that stick out in my mind of like those game changers where like this is a real business and this is something that needs to have attention applied to.
Who was your? I'm curious. Who was the first person you hired? A lot of studios out there now starting off are making that decision, and we're getting a lot of questions like, who is the first person you hire? Who was that in your case? I mean, there were 3 of you already engaged in the business, so you were covering some of the vital business functions, I guess. But when there was a need to expand, like, who did you hire first, and whether that was a good decision?
Well, we did. It was in hindsight not a good decision, but it was a good decision at the time. So like everybody had their day jobs, and we were open 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. So there were shifts. Like I'll do 12 hours, you do 12 hours. Let's be cool. But we did have to hire somebody. And when we decided to hire somebody, it was, well, who do we know? Because I don't want to just put an ad up on Craigslist or like whatever. Who do we know that would be good at this? And when we started talking about it, one of the shows that recorded with us was like, well, I like podcasting. Can I be your employee? Don't do that.
Don't hire your clients.
Don't hire your clients. He was a great guy and, worked with us for a while.
To be honest, we hired 2 at the same time. We started off with just the 3 of us, and then we hired 2, and both of them were clients. They were from different shows. But yeah, we went from 3 to 5 immediately. And it was great because we had 1 studio room and we had just so much demand. We were in a co-working space now at this point that we had to get another room in this co-working space. So then we had 2 studios and we had 5 people. And so just the workload was like lessened just the tiniest bit, not even still a lot.
I remember the first day that I was so nervous that things weren't going to go well. The first day we had...
I was going to say, you want to cough it out big time? It might be easier.
It's okay.
Just get it out of your system.
I'll go too.
Hopefully nobody's listening.
It's painful seeing you suffer over there.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like, just let him cough it out.
I started laughing at the same time.
No.
Oh, no. But the first day when we hired our first employee, and it was his job to open the studio and like run the shows for the day, I was so nervous. Like the whole day I was just like, he's going to do something wrong. I don't know what's going on. But it was nice because like we were working 7 days a week, and it was like, I don't have to go into work today. I could stay home and like watch TV and just hang out and play video games or whatever. It was the first day it was like I could relax for a day. Freedom. But I didn't relax until like the first show was done, and he texted me and was like, it's all good. And that was it. But I prefer to be here. Like Brianna likes to work from home, and I don't like to work from home. Yeah, I don't get as much work done as if I'm here.
And Borko, sorry for me taking the lead on all the questions, but they just keep coming.
I keep coughing.
You keep coughing. I guess your journey can be split in a few chapters, if I know it well by now. And the first chapter is probably up until somewhere in 2020, right? Before you had to do certain changes. But in these few first years, when you started when you started Gotham, you started growing. Give me a few things that worked really well for you guys that you would do again absolutely the same way. The strategy, the positioning, the service, the products, and then also like what are things that you think were really mistakes at a given time, a given moment when it comes to the business structure, something that someone who is starting the studio now could actually use as a piece of advice for this first chapter, because the second chapter is, I guess, different, and there are some learnings that we can share as well.
Don't hire a client.
Don't hire clients, number one.
That was the first part, right?
I feel like a win for us was we always invested a lot of time and effort and energy into the clients themselves. And we just naturally became a point of resource and experience for them. And so I think that's something that is always going to return dividends upon your studio, is investing in your shows. Can you guarantee they'll be with you forever? No. But I think you learn a lot being a coach, being a strategist. Like, you develop all of these tricks and trades and how to communicate with people and how to be an effective speaker. There's just so much you get from it that even if that client, let's say 6 months down the road, doesn't do their podcast with you anymore, you still learned a lot along the way and developed a lot of skills. And that is something that we've passed on to our staff members. It's something that's really important, is that the clients look to you to be the authority figure, and they look to you to have the answers. So be that person in the room. Be kind, but be direct. And, have a customer service oriented mindset, but also understand that the end product of what they're leaving here with is the most important thing. We say this all the time. You can be the nicest person. You can have the greatest customer service. If I get my audio and video back and it doesn't sound good and look good, I don't really care that you had great customer service.
Yeah.
I want the product to be good, because that's what I'm paying majority for. So focus on the product and the end quality of what they're taking with them. Focus on the client and putting in that work and effort with them, because that returns multiplied at the end of the day.
Yeah, something we said a lot in the early days and still say today is that before we even worked with celebrities, we worked with a lot of hobbyists and people that wanted to be celebrities. And so our goal, and something we always said to people, our staff, was like, everybody that comes in here should be treated as if they are a celebrity. Like, this is their experience.
Yep.
They're spending their discretionary income. They're spending their hobby money. They're instead of going golfing, they're coming here. So this is their investment is in. They can go anywhere and get an audio recording. They can record at home and probably have it sound 80% of what it does sound like here. But they're coming here for an experience. They're coming here because they want their guests to walk into a space and say, "Oh, this is nice." They're coming here because they want, coffee. They want water. They want you to bring them something. They want you to treat them like they are who they are internally, and so they can feel like that feeling of like specialness. And so it was always more than just like a recording studio. It was special. It was an experience. Everything needed to be an experience for the people that they brought here as a guest. And because we've never really spent money on advertising, it's always word of mouth. So like, if you come in here and your guest is X, Y, whatever, they're going to have a good time. And then, I should start a podcast. Where should I go? I had a good time at Gotham.
Yeah.
Or, they have a friend that wants to start a podcast. Where should I go? I recorded a podcast at Gotham. We should go there. So it's always word of mouth. So everybody has the potential to exponentially grow your business. So every person that comes in here is either a client or a potential client, and or somebody they know. So it's always just the experience.
It's a great experience and a great product, because if you have a great experience with no product,
That's
then
like
what's the
you said,
point? If you have a great product but it's a shitty experience, they're not going to come again, or they might consider something else.
Yeah.
So it's a great...
You got to have both.
You have to have both. There's no other option.
Exactly.
And so it takes a lot of training. We take training very seriously. In terms of what you asked, like, what is something you probably would have done different? I probably would have spent way more time training staff in the beginning. At first, it was like, this is on, this is go, here you go, bye. Because we were exhausted, like literally 7 days, 12, 14 hours a day. And so when we finally got people, it was like, I'm so excited to just take a break. But, a lot of those lessons learned wouldn't have happened, I guess, if we hadn't had those moments. But you are I've learned this so much more over the past specifically couple years that like Gotham is Matt and I. It's ethos, it's policies, it's vibe, it's the way it feels. Like everything about this is us because this is what we set up. And then this is how you train the people who are working on what you have put in place. And so the way that they act is a reflection. And I needed to probably spend more time training that kind of, you know, that employee and engaging with them to make them feel good and confident about, and that's something I do now. And I spend a lot of time with it now, not something I did in the beginning that I kind of wish I had spent more time doing.
How do you do it?
So we do reviews, in-depth reviews once a year, and then we do a lighthearted review, which is reviews are very structured. So it's more corporate, I guess, but it's very intense. Like they have to fill out paragraphs worth of what is it that you've been doing that you like doing? What do you want to do more of? What are you considering your strengths and your weaknesses? Where do you want help? Where do you see that we can be better? I think that's another thing that we take very seriously is that our team are in these rooms with clients now more than Matt and I are. So they're seeing and they're hearing and they're getting feedback and they're working with the equipment much more than we are. So I take what they say seriously. And so we need to also know what's going on because we're not physically here doing it every single day. So that's a big part of that. I go, you know, what are your suggestions on things that you see that could be better, that could be fixed? What do you think you want to be doing in the future? And then I just kind of help map out a system in which we can get them to where they want to be. And then I think there's a lot to be proud of with what we've done. I think one of my biggest accomplishments and achievements I feel is that our team has been with us for a long time. We have one employee who's been with us for 6 years. We have one employee who's been here for 4 years. And we have one employee that's been here for 1 year. And I think that it just means a lot to have somebody here that you trust and that you know you can be open and communicative with, and you can be constructive with your feedback, and we don't take it personally. Like, although this place is us, if somebody tells us that something is wrong or it's not working, we don't take it like, how dare you offend us? It's like, no, we need to do it better then.
And that's one of the important things about feedback from internal sources. Like your employees tell you this needs to be changed, you should actually change it. Or look into it and find out why it shouldn't be changed, and like take their, like, I want them to come to me with everything that's wrong so I can fix it. But if they come to me with like, this is 5 things that are wrong, and I say, that's not, they're not going to come to me anymore. So you actually have to listen.
I think it's a very interesting topic of retaining your stuff, and you mentioned 4 years. As a business, you're growing, right? I don't believe in like you can stay still. Like you either grow or you grow.
I'm hoping for the day we get to stay still.
Yeah,
I'm tired of all this change.
I know. But like, right, you can't like stay at the same level for years. You're either going to grow or you're going to like, shrink, right? Now, staff and people, everyone is usually looking for growth, right? So to retain someone, you need to keep growing. You need to keep unlocking them new job roles, new opportunities, etc. How are you doing that with your staff? And the person who is 6 years with you now, what was their role in the beginning and what's their role now? And what's their role a year from now when you're expecting them to come back, I would assume, and say, hey, like New York, expensive city, So how do you handle that? I think that's an important piece.
Let me tell the story about when we hired Raul. So our oldest employee is named Raul, and he's a producer now. And he was hired as an engineer, just a part-time engineer, record shows. And when we hired him, it was an interesting story because we hired another guy, Brian. I'll always remember Brian. He worked with us for a week. So we
1 week.
We interviewed like maybe 20 people. Didn't even interview Raul part of that. He applied. We didn't even call him for an interview. We hired Brian. He had a background in like he worked in a music studio. He had a lot of audio experience. And then he got a job offer from some other place.
Like Sony, I think.
Something much bigger than we were at the time.
Yeah.
And he had to take it. And we're like, well, of course you got to take it. So he quit after a week. And then Raul had been messaging me on LinkedIn like every other day. And he's just like, I want to work with you guys. Please hire me. I want to work with you. And so we're like, all right, well, you're in luck because we said no to everybody else that we
you'll have a
interviewed,
chance.
and
Yeah.
we need somebody now. Can you work tonight? And he like came down, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And he started just as an engineer, just setting up mics, hitting record, and that was pretty much it. No real editing, no real processing, nothing really. And then a couple years later, like he went and he was like,
My other favorite story from Raul.
yeah, maybe should you tell? You had more
Sure.
one in-depth experience with it.
My other favorite story with Raul is that he came to us. This was 2019, towards the end of 2019. And he said, I think we need to be doing more than just hourly rentals. I think we need to start having production clients where we can do everything. We can record, we can edit, we can publish. We have all this knowledge. We should really be making this happen. And I said, that sounds great. I don't even know how we would start that. And he goes, I got it. And he goes, I'm coming to you with a presentation next week. Next week, he calls us in for a meeting. So official. We didn't do that. We were just like talking to each other in the hallways and in passing. And he's like, you, Matt, come in here, sit down. He put it up on the board. He did a full 8-page presentation about the industry and where it's going and what we should be doing. And I mean, he sold me on, I'm going to do a presentation. I could have just said yes from there. But the fact that he did an hour in-depth talk to us and he was like, this is what we should be doing. It just made me very, very happy. And I said, well, yeah, of course, we're going to figure it out. We're going to make it work. I didn't know how to sell that type of client because our clients up until that point had been a very specific type of person. And so this felt more B2B. This felt more corporate. This felt more like small business owners who are looking to have a marketing and a brand strategy tied to what they did. And I was like, I don't even know how to do that, but this is great. Like he put so much effort into it. And so immediately after that, just like we did with the studio, we said, as soon as we decided to do it, within a week, I think we had sold our first client. And it was really funny because talking about prices, we did all of this. And I think our first package was $150 an episode to do everything.
Whoa.
But we sold 8 episodes and we're like, whoa,
Yeah.
we're moving, baby. Which we now charge way much more for, rightfully so. But it was one of those moments where Matt and I were always the ones to think about the future, to plan, to put in the effort, to have these talks, and to have one of our team members come to us and be like, we need to be doing this. It felt right. It felt like this is what I want more of. I want them to tell, what is it? 2 heads are better than 1 and 3 heads are better than 2. And it's just like the more people you have thinking and working on it and experiencing what's happening inside the spaces, it makes you better as a company and as bosses. And so we listened to him. We took his feedback seriously. We implemented it, and he became our head producer. And now he trains other producers when they come in how to work with clients, how to, develop your strategies and your systems internally. So that way you're hitting weekly releases, but you're also helping them grow and helping them strategize their growth. And at that point we were doing everything like cover art and music. And so he was just leading them through the entire pre-production, production, and the post-production.
What's the role of producer at Gotham? The role of producer, every person that you talk to, producer has a slightly different meaning.
Different
Yes.
definition.
At Gotham, what is a producer?
So our engineers are the ones who handle the hourly recordings. They're the ones who are setting up the cameras, they're recording the show, and they deliver the files. Our producers are working with our clients that are bought into whole packages. And they bought maybe 12 episodes to sometimes it's like an entire year, like 52 episodes package with us. And they get a one-on-one connection with a Gotham producer. And that person is leading them through the entire process. The hourly is very self-managed by the client. They handle their bookings, they handle their files, they do all their things themselves. And producers are leading it internally. So we help them record, we manage the bookings, we edit for them, and we publish for them.
Do you work on content for them?
Work on content?
Like research,
Scripting.
scripting, questions?
Yes. Guest booking. Sometimes we work with people in the medical space who need to, make sure that everything they said isn't like crossing any boundaries or anything like that. So helping with like legalities and stuff like that. Yes, we help them through every single part.
I'm curious, how do you manage the resources and investment and the time when it comes to this service? Because it can be super wide. preparing an episode and researching and scripting can be a piece of work that you spend days on, or it can be something that you draft within an hour. How do you manage expectations with clients?
There is something that is a tiny bit of our secret sauce that I don't mind really giving away, because again, I think it's all about good systems and being put in place. So every week on Monday, we do a team meeting where we say, what are you working on? Where is it at? What do you need? And we just go one by one, and we all, like Matt and ourselves, are talking about, here's what we're working on, here's where we're at. And we learned, this is another life lesson learned, is that life happens. Your employees are going to get sick. Yeah. They are going to have big life events. They're going to take honeymoons and vacations, and you better be ready, unless you have a team of 20 who just have extra people handing around.
Which no one has.
No one has. You're going to maximize this small team that you have, which then this prepares us internally to be able to take over at any moment, because we all know what's going on with everybody at any time. And we also have a system where it's just not any one person is overwhelmed with work. We really divide up the work and the labor between the different staff members. So that way, nobody's overwhelmed. And as work ebbs and flows, because sometimes people do seasons, sometimes people take breaks. One staff member will free up with some time, boom, they're put onto another project. And it just helps make sure that everybody is busy, but not overwhelmed. That's a clear distinction you have to have, because work starts to slip, clients start to become upset if you try to overwork a staff member and put too much on their plate.
We had a few situations where we completely underestimated the amount of work that the person needs to put into a show.
Yeah.
So we sign a yearly contract with a customer to help them with the full production, meaning, yes, you own content because they're subject matter expert. When we say content, we are referring to the actual team of the show, right? It's a fintech show, for example, so they own obviously the conversation and the questions, etc. But then we completely underestimated the amount of time and work that will go in just communicating with that client all the time. Questions, posts, social media, guests, bookings, etc. That you need 3 people working on that. One as an account manager, one as a social media manager and content distributor, one as a producer. So in that sense, is that limited by time that the producer spends on a customer, or by scope of work, or how do you structure the deal between you and the creator?
So what's interesting is when we started, we wanted to do everything for one client, right? We wanted to have all hands in all aspects. And we realized that's not going to work, because it is too much work to keep up with. And it's also then a logistical hurdle to try and hire somebody to be an account manager, but they can only account manage one. Now they're going to have to account manage both. And it's like, it just felt to be too much. We tried, and we always came back to one producer to one client. But the way that we've developed internal systems to be able to handle that is we have gotten rid of the things that we don't need to have our hands in. We do not need to have our hands in their social media. We can make the clips for you. We can caption them, but we're going to send them to you, and you are going to be in charge, or you can hire a marketing agency, but we are not a marketing agency.
So even if they ask you to do it, you just say politely that you don't do that as a
Correct.
service.
Back in the day, we tried.
I think we had to get to a point where we were okay with saying no.
Yeah.
And knowing that what we were good at is what we're good at, and what we can handle is what we can handle, and not overextend ourselves. And, if a client comes in here and says, I'll give you $1 million, okay, we'll hire some people to handle that stuff, but nobody's doing that. Right. So we overextended ourselves in the beginning because we were hungry, and we wanted to bring in as much as we could, as quick as we could. And then we get to a point where we're like, well, we're not social media professionals. I don't know how to do algorithms or anything like that. So why am I in charge of someone's social media? And that's just like a whole animal that we just did not want to eat.
I think that's a position that most of businesses and studios specifically are in today. We are in that position. We're taking everything. We'll see where that pay off. But I think that's a very important lesson. That the nature of this business exposes you to everything else, social media specifically, to marketing and paid media. And then it's hard to tell them no when they throw a big budget at you.
Sure. Yep.
And then you can get you can get in trouble unless you outsource that to an
Yeah, we're
external
solving
agency,
that.
etc.
But agencies, then you complicate
Scalability
things.
of that is an issue.
Yeah.
We sometimes will have like a client comes in and it feels like it's going to be like a big to do or whatever, and we have a conversation internally and we're like, well, they want us to do this, this, and this. All right, well, whatever your cost is, whatever our cost is, add 20%. Because if they're going to have us do it and they're going to hold us accountable, I want it to be worth it monetarily. Like if I'm going to stay up till midnight every night working on your thing, I'm going to get paid. Or you're going to say no because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And then I won't have to do it at all anyways.
Yeah.
And we'll still get to be able to produce the show. So it's just finding out what your time is worth and being comfortable knowing that if you say no to this person or they don't say yes to your price, there's going to be somebody else that will say yes to your price, or they'll be okay with parsing things off and just like knowing what you feel comfortable doing. And at one point we had like 13 employees and now we have 3. Mm-hmm. And it feels like we're doing more with 3 than we did with 13.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to get to that point. So as mentioned before, you had 2 sort of chapters or a few. So just before 2020, can you describe me the state of Gotham at that point? The number of studios, the number of staff, the number of clients, the number of bookings. Just walk me through that. And then we'll talk about what happened and then what were the decisions that you made.
2019, end of 2019. January of 2020, Gotham was cooking.
That was our biggest month.
It was our biggest month
until recent history.
Well, yeah. And we were looking at these numbers, we're like, we're going to need to get more studios. We're going to have to expand. Like,
I remember, and it's kind of an offshoot, but in January, we had a meeting with Spotify because Spotify was building studios in New York for their originals, and they didn't know what they were doing. So they met with us and were like, can you build us a studio? I was like, yeah, let's go up to the 10th floor. We got this. This is available in the building. We'll rent it out. We'll build you studios. We'll manage it. We'll produce it. We'll do all this stuff for you. And they were like, heck yeah, let's go. And then like I remember having the conversation and being like, this COVID thing over in China, do you think that's going to do anything? And they're like, nah, no big deal. So January was popping.
January was insane.
5 studios, I think we had.
Well, 5 or 6 at that point. We had 2. Well, you're right. We had 2 upstairs.
And 2.
Yeah, so we were up 5.
5.
Yeah.
13 employees.
13 employees.
What was the count or number of sessions or bookings that you were doing
7 days a week.
We were 7 days a week.
10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
12 hours a day. And we had 6 rooms. And they were all pretty much maxed out every single day.
So
they were
talking
back
about
to
probably
back
like 500,
to back.
600 sessions.
Yeah.
Hours for sure.
Yeah. It was, we still have our accounts from back in those days where we look at the schedule for the day and it's like it's overwhelming to look at it now. I don't know how we lived it in the moment. And like we had kind of mentioned this where we were at a different location and we just did not have room for people to work because we only had room for the studios, to where we had to make a makeshift closet and put people in there to work on editing when they weren't recording a show, because we just had to get people in and out. It was the most insane time.
And the editing was always in-house.
Yes.
You never outsourced that.
I've never outsourced it. I understand that we would turn more of a profit if we did. I just truly believe in hiring here, hiring local, giving people jobs. And I also am best when I am with someone. I feel like I am the best leader. I'm the best boss. I'm the best version of myself. And all of these things when I get to be with somebody in person. And I'll admit it, I'm a slight control freak. So,
Matt, how do you feel about that?
I feel in control.
He feels uncontrolled. No, and I just feel like everything is smoother and works better when I can just address something head on in person. Versus, okay, what is your time zone? When can we get on a chat? You did this. I want you to do this. It is so inconvenient, in my opinion, to work like that. And I don't almost care what the cost is versus, how much I could be getting paid. To me, it's worth it.
So
January was tough. It was great, but it was still tough.
Yeah.
So much stuff going on.
And if COVID didn't happen, what do you think would Gotham look like down the road?
Yeah.
Would that work on scale now when you look back?
I think there was an opportunity for it. I think that we actually had another meeting in January with a company in Brooklyn called Industry City. And that was like a co-working, huge, like it's like four warehouses full of businesses. And they wanted to put a podcast studio in Industry City. And they were going to give us the space for free and just like we could use it and set it up and charge their people. And so that was a huge stepping stone like for Gotham, just to like, it felt like franchising almost a little bit. And we did talk about like, is there an opportunity for franchising? Can we just put our sauce into a binder and then have a studio in Oregon can open and put our name on the door and like they're a Gotham satellite location. There was a lot of internal talks about just scaling the studio. We were talking to hotels. Is this an amenity you can put in your business center? Does this make sense? Or WeWork. We were actually had a conversation with WeWork about putting, and I think they do have studios in some of those co-working spaces now. I don't think they're utilized very much. But we were talking to co-working spaces and like it makes sense to have a studio for all of your internal clients because they were coming to us. You could keep them at their office and like record there. So there was a lot of opportunity for scale. Like we were looking in other markets in Florida, Chicago, California, obviously. I think we were still not charging enough. And I still, even today, I still think we're not charging enough. So we would have had to revamp that model to bring in more revenue based on like the amount of bookings that we had. But the changing prices is always like, are they still going to come with us? So I think there was definitely an opportunity for scale. And I think that there still might be but there's just so many pop-ups now that are showing up. And it's like, I don't know if the studio model is like super scalable on like a wide, like national level. I don't know, unless somebody comes with $1 billion and says, I'm going to open a studio in every city. It feels like it might be over like the scale. Like you need to specialize in one thing and like be good at that. But in January, we were looking at like, let's open in every city and let's just do as much as we can.
What changed now? Because you mentioned in our Coffee and Cables, you started doing less and making more. And what changed? Obviously, COVID did happen. And then it created a lot of
we were kind of forced
churn
as well, too.
And then going out of COVID, you clearly made some decisions to change fundamentally the business model of Gotham, which then introduced a whole new world for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, COVID forced us to change everything, our mindset and it was allowing your dream to die so that way you could just have to make a new one. We didn't want that. We would have been very happy with scaling and growing and everything was on the upward trend. And I think Gotham would have looked a lot different had that hadn't happened. So it was allowing yourself to just swallow that pride and allowing yourself to mourn a version of your business that doesn't get to exist anymore. And then it's like, okay, we had our moment, we had our sadness. We need to figure out how to make money if we want to keep the doors open, if we want to keep doing this. And I wish beyond anything is that we had decided it, almost like we decided to do production. Boom, we sold it. Oh my gosh, now we're trying. Nothing happened like that again after COVID. There was no simple, we make a decision and everything just falls into place. It was years of struggling and trying and moving and changing and investing and hoping. And it just like every time we turned to something, nothing really went through. And it was the first time experiencing something like that because literally from inception, everything had just kind of worked out. Everybody was there. It was all the right timing. And so it was I can't stress enough how challenging 2020 to 2024, 4 years were for us. We were also a couple, so it's like trying to navigate this as business owners and you're home and you're stuck, which we lived in a studio apartment again during COVID for 3 months living together. So it was just one of these, like, there's a lot of things spinning and nothing really feels stable. And so I really like, without getting too emotional, I'm really, really just happy that Matt is my partner in this life because I don't know that I would have been able to get through those 4 years if I didn't have somebody as strong as him. So thanks. But yeah, it was incredibly challenging. And there were moments where we were just like, is this it? Should we just really are we dumb to keep going and hoping? Are we going to look back in 3 years and been like, we went into so much debt for what? Like, we should have closed up the doors earlier. And you just start to second guess every single decision that you're making. We, in America, got SBA loans, so Small Business Association loans. We got those during the COVID pandemic. And we thought, okay, well, if in-person is potentially dead and never going to happen again, what can we do in the tech space? And so we started a company, and it was called Tandem, and it was podcast hosting. And it took some of those core values and things that we learned through Gotham Podcast Studio, which was community, outreach, membership, getting people to feel like they were a part of something. And so we did things that other podcast hosting companies did not do / are still not doing. And that business failed. And that was our piggy bank. That was our Easter egg of money that the government gave us to get through. And we invested it in something, and it went under within a year. And so we're like, okay, so now we have no other business. And now we also have no backup money. So we just had shot this foot. We were just like hobbling through. And it just came down to refusing to give up and being so headstrong and maybe stupidly so that you are like in a fight with yourself to like, I refuse to allow this to be how I go out. And I'm not going to glorify it. We went through hell to make this happen here today, because we went personally under for a lot of debt. We personally went under a lot of stress. And it was only through this just like sheer determination to not allow an outside source to end us. Mm-hmm. If we ended us because we made bad decisions, because we couldn't keep up with it, because we just decided we didn't want to do this anymore, I could live with that. But an outside source taking me under, you're going to have to fight me a lot harder.
Our goal during those times was to just be here tomorrow.
Yep.
And to, there might be an email in my inbox right now that's from somebody that's going to be a game changer. Mm. And so it was always just like, let's just be here tomorrow. Let's just get through today, and tomorrow we'll be here. And we were just taking it day by day. And
for 4 years.
At the last 6 months of 2024, I got like another job. Yep. I took a full-time job working somewhere else just because we needed revenue. We needed money. And
personally, we couldn't take it from Gotham. Gotham didn't have it. And we also kept employees. Yeah. We paid them, and we weren't paying ourselves. And so we just had to make money. So Matt.
So Gotham was dormant, and you just paid employees, and there was no business. You just kept it dormant until better times, until things change. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Matt literally got a job somewhere else doing marketing and podcasting for them personally. And he wasn't here. And so I was running here with the staff, with the people that we did have coming in. And that was also an incredibly challenging time.
Was it obviously the economy at that time was, completely destroyed, I guess. Mm. Was it only the economy that was working against you, or the industry was also changing? You said that no matter what you tried at the time was not picking up as 2018, 19. At the time, everything was exploding, I guess. So no matter what you put out in the market, you were selling.
Yeah.
What were the things that didn't work? Was it the industry that changed? The demand, the customers changed? Or was it just the economy and the fact that people were not investing?
It was a perfect storm of kind of all those things where the people were hungry for content, but they were also forgiving for quality. Mm-hmm. So Zoom recordings were okay. Recording in your apartment was okay. Like, people would listen to a podcast that didn't sound great because they needed something. Mm-hmm. They were hungry for some sort of content. Like, movies weren't coming out. TV shows were kind of like reruns. And so they just wanted content. So people were absorbing stuff and not caring about the quality as much as the content, the quantity. They wanted quantity, not quality. And so we couldn't pivot ourselves. We couldn't make ourselves on quality anymore because people were recording at home and they're like, well, I can do it for free over Zoom. Also, guests were not coming in person anymore. They didn't want to come into a studio because they were scared. So that was just, it was, people didn't have extra money and they didn't have the need to record in a studio anymore. And so our whole client base, which was mostly hobbyists and part-timers, like just having fun, was gone like in an instant.
This is impressive because most people haven't seen this like you have, because we've seen the industry explode post-COVID, which means that people would be totally oblivious of what you're talking about, given that nobody was in the industry pre-COVID or during COVID. Yeah. And, listening to this, I'm sure that 99% of them that were probably are under. And you refused to die.
Yeah.
Literally refused.
We did not let it happen.
But speaking to what you were saying, like, the things that made Gotham special, we just kind of kept coming back to. And so we're like, well, if we are going to move forward, what can we do and how can we pivot? And while all of what Matt said is true, we knew that our quality, our reputation, and certain things stood the test of time. And so we just kind of kept coming back to that. And we said, like, one of our biggest lessons is just that we have the studio, which is great. Not many people have that. And that was always our bread and butter and our selling feature. So when we got back to a point where, yes, now there's more podcast production houses and agencies, guess what they don't have? A studio. Mm-hmm. And all these studios, guess what they don't have? Podcast production experience. Yep. We do. We have all of it. And so that's how we pivoted, and that's how we started selling. And we had to change who our clients were because they were not hobbyists anymore. So now we had to go after and target people who were looking for quality. They couldn't accept anything less, and who wanted to go with someone that was a one-stop shop, somebody who could do everything for them. So while if you were a new client at this time and you looked at our reviews and it's like, oh, they record great. This is great. I love this. It makes you feel this way. That wasn't exactly everything we were selling at this point, but it still spoke to our reputation. And so I think every little bit of our journey helped us get to that point where we could reframe who we were and who we serviced. And I didn't feel weird about doing it. I'm really big on making sure I'm not lying or being deceitful or, hiding anything. I want to make sure we're always leading with like honesty. And I could sell on that, on the fact that Gotham could do it all. And guess what we also have? We also have the studio. And it automatically became the thing that made us stand out from all these podcast production houses and agencies that you could just go right online, say, yep, I want you to produce this for me. They get you someone virtually. And it's like, guess what? We're in person. So all the things that kind of felt like they were against us being in person, having this physical space, I just used it as a selling feature to a different type of client.
Can you get more tactical and just explain how did that happen in practice? So what did you do exactly to communicate this to the market and to sell?
Well, one of the things that we tried that didn't do that well for us, but again, I feel like we learned a lot, was we hired an agency we spent lots of money to do pretty much cold emails, sales, reach out there. And, we had always been inbound and now we needed to be outbound. We needed to get out there and put ourselves in front of people. And we spent quite a few thousands into this agency and didn't get a single thing back. We didn't get one warm lead. And we thought, okay, so now instead of investing money in this company, I know that I can just invest that time and effort into us. And so we started learning how to do cold outreach, sales, reaching out to people through emails, through LinkedIn, through all these other sources. And we started getting in front of people. And I remember like one of the first companies, which I can't mention because they never wound up releasing, but they paid us for a 6-episode podcast production thing. And it was the highest ticket sale we had ever had. And I'm talking like when we were having these moments of like, I sold it, it was literally like, hey, I just got us through the next 2 months of expenses because I sold this one thing. And then we go, okay, now we got 2 more months. And like, that was the mindset, is that literally every day was another opportunity just to get us another step closer. And the big ticket items just meant we had more time to figure our life out. Try and get it right the next time.
But in addition to studios, great customer experience, focus in employees, great production quality, you also have learned all of these and combined that together. I want to dig into one more unique thing that sets Gotham aside, and that's the Gotham network. You've produced like shows like We Might Be Drunk with 100 million downloads and probably many, many others. And that's something that we talked about a lot. And I want to just dig into that. And what do you feel about the future of Gotham Network, and how do you feel Gotham Network is the culmination of everything you've been doing well in the past and everything that you can bring as a unique asset?
Yeah. I feel like and I'm going to let you talk after this because I've been talking a lot, but I do feel like we get so motivated, and I don't mean this bad, but by anger. Like, we just see other people coming in with their producers, and their producers aren't producing shit. I'm sorry, but they're not doing anything. They'll just sit there on their phones and do this. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because my producers, they produce I don't know if we're allowed to curse. They produce really well. So we would just see what people were counting as producers or editors or engineers. And I was mad. We were mad. We were like, no, we can do this better. And that's similar to the network. And we were seeing shows come in here, and they said, oh, our network is making us do this. Our network is going to do this for us. And then we would sit here, we would be, making the camera adjustments, doing this, and they would be talking freely about like, yeah, actually my network doesn't pay for this. They make me do this. And then sometimes they refund me, but then sometimes they don't. And then also I want to do a live show, but they said they can't do that. And it was just this listening made me so angry because I was like, I know we could do this so much better. And boom, Gotham Network. Like we had also talked about the other side of that coin is that if we're being honest, a podcast studio is capped at its amount of revenue based off of how many hours it's open. And so we needed to find something that was not exactly trading time for money, which is, editing. These types of things that like, yeah, we can upsell, we can work inside the vertical, we can sell more and more and more. But then you have to have somebody to be able to do all of that. Yeah. What can we do that's going to really put us at a place revenue wise where I want to be, where we want to be? And we said ad sales. Like ad sales is where it's going to be at, and like something that it's already proven itself time and time again. I look towards people like Podcast One, Dear Media, like these networks that have built these empires of these shows. And I thought, I want to do that, and I want to do it the Gotham way. I want to do it with that hand-holding, with that secret sauce, with that reputation behind it. And I don't want it to be only ad sales. I want it to be strategy, because I think that's what other people are looking for I think that's what podcasters are looking for. They're looking for someone to care enough about their show to help them strategize on how to grow it. And so, yeah, that's for the network. It was kind of like a win-win for us. We have access to a ton of really talented, great people that come through here. We tell them about our network. We can literally take them through the entire process now. We didn't have that ad sales capability before, but now we do. And so it's just a growth. We're still in our growth year. We just started this year.
What have you learned so far about that business model? What's your learning and takeaway now, and looking back a year ago when you started?
I remember something that's kind of sticks in my head from we used to do yearly seminars, it's kind of similar to the one that we're doing tomorrow. And there was one speaker at the seminar he was a producer at Podcast Network that I don't think exists anymore. But one of the things he said someone asked at the seminar was like, how do you find successful shows? Like, how do you find a person that's this person will be a successful podcast host and will make a successful show, and it'll be millions of downloads and you'll get millions of dollars from it. How do you find that? And he says, I don't know, but we do 50 shows. And if we do 50, one may be good. So their model was quantity and trying to just do a lot of stuff. That is the hardest thing, I think, for us going into this network is just you don't know who's going to be the next Joe Rogan or whoever's going to be the next Alex Cooper. Who's going to be that next person? There's no, I don't know. Is there a test out there? Can you test blood type to see if they got the X factor? I don't know. And I'm not a talent manager. I don't know how to look for those kind of things. So at this point, I think we're also going for quantity and just, we see you putting in the work. We like your content. We think there's potential there. Let's invest in you. And we'll put in the time. We'll put in the effort. We'll put in the money. And hopefully we have a return on that investment. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get anything back from people that are in that position. And we have a lot of great shows on our network, but a lot of them are not at the point where they're generating revenue. So it's a long game.
What's your gut feeling saying? Is it about the host and the talent, or it's about the process and the structure and the system around the show?
I would come back to the host and the talent, because we said, someone was like, well, what is your network? Is it specify? Is it for like women-based shows? Is it for business? And we said, no, it's for everybody. But the defining factor is that it has to be someone who wants to do a podcast. I cannot tell you how many people have walked through the store being like, well, I have 50,000 followers. I guess I should have a podcast. And it's like, okay, well, who wants to work on a show like that where you're not invested, you don't have buy-in, and you're the host? Like, you just want a show because you assume you should have one. What we've made our defining factor for the Gotham Network is we are taking the time to invest in people who really want to do their show. They want podcasting to be their job. Because you just cannot fake sincerity. You cannot construct someone to be impassioned with what they're doing. It has to come from them. And so if we can find those people, we are light years ahead from someone who has 2 million followers and maybe a 3% engagement rate.
Yeah.
And they're not interested in being a podcast host. They just want a show. That's the defining factor for us.
So, and I agree. I think that the talent and the passion is the key ingredient. But if you want to do it on scale, right? If you want to have 50 shows and you said you're investing, and the investment can be resources, time, and money, how do you manage that? How do you secure the funds to invest in all of these shows if you are not charging them the full rate, if you're giving them the subsidized cost for the editing? Are you charging them anything at all, or what's your take? What's your approach there?
There's no cost to join the network. There is a discounted recording rate for people who want to record in our studios. So they get to pay us a discounted recording rate. We view our investment as more than time and money, because we also have requirements of ownership. So we get to own 10%. So our portfolio is growing. That's a way of revenue, just maybe not true dollars for time, but our portfolio is growing. And we also require everybody to tag us and to post about us. And then that is also growing our social following. And that is another source of revenue. Again, not exactly dollars for time, but you grow these different arms of the business and it becomes worth it to us. And again, I feel like We Might Be Drunk is just this like shiny beacon of what can be with enough time and effort from both parties put in. And that's what we want. We want that again and again and again. And we want to replicate that again. We had just launched the network and we started with our internal group of resources and people that we knew. Now we're hunters. Now we have hunted again. Now we're reaching out to podcasts that we see. We love what you're doing. You should have a strong support system behind you. And now we want to start kind of hunting and going out there and gathering some of these people that we want to be on our network.
And then the key ingredient, selling those shows to advertisers.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's like where this is the challenge that we have. We have a number of shows that we could work with, but the key challenges? How do you sell them to advertisers, especially in the regions where advertisers are not really spending that much?
Yeah.
You are not in that region. At least here, advertisers are spending.
Yeah.
What's your sales engine? How did you approach that?
So we work with an outside company to do ad sales. And like most things you've noted in this conversation, when I get mad, things tend to change. And I got mad by how much they were taking. And I said, we should just learn how to do ad sales ourselves. And so we're in the process of that.
Okay.
So that way I can sell
in-house,
internally and I don't have to use an outside source and I don't have to lose 30%.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we've been going for over an hour now, and what the last thing that I want to leave everyone with is we're big on what's going on with this industry. Like where is the industry headed? What's up for the future, and where do you see Gotham headed? Where do you see the industry headed? What's the future of the podcast industry studios?
Something interesting that I think we talked about a lot before it even happened was that we work with one company, Madison Square Garden. We record one of their shows, and or a bunch of their shows, and one of their shows is they have the MSG network, and they put that show on MSG network. So it's a TV show at that point. Like they running ads on it like a television show, and it didn't cost a lot to produce when compared to a TV show. And now you see Netflix just sign a deal with Spotify, but they're going to have their shows on Netflix. I think that hopefully that doesn't become a thing, but like the amount of money that it takes to produce a podcast is a lot less than a TV show, and you're still getting almost the same amount of quality, like for a talk show type program. Mm-hmm. And so they're taking note. Like I can have this content prepackaged, ready to go, and all I have to do is upload it to Netflix or Hulu or whatever. I think that's the direction that the industry is definitely going to be going, especially with Netflix making that big buy-in. What I hope that doesn't happen is that the people get money hungry and start inflating the budgets, $200 million to make a podcast season or something. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because you don't need a sound stage in Hollywood with a green screen to produce a podcast. Yeah. But I think that's definitely the direction where things are going, is that it's going to be more of a respectable medium. It's going to be, it was a game changer in the U.S. election last year. Yeah. So it is respected medium. It is still an uphill battle. I handle a lot of the booking for Women Might Be Drunk, and it is still an uphill battle to convince a publicist that their client should come on a podcast. I don't understand why they don't understand these things yet. Just stop. So I think that getting a little bit more respect in the media world is hopefully coming, but definitely with it becoming more of a show rather than we've even internally stopped referring to podcasts as podcasts. They're shows. And getting that respect from a Netflix type company really is it's gonna punch a lot of money into the industry. It's gonna to push people towards more video content, because there are still a decent amount of podcasts that are audio only, and I don't understand. Let's all go video. So I think that Netflix making that big buy-in. Who's going to be next? Hulu is probably right behind there. Paramount, Amazon is probably going to start putting some stuff up there. So I want to be in that position and ready to fill that need.
Does that mean that we're still going to see a surge in demand? And when you said that Netflix and Spotify announcements are kind of legitimizing the industry, and the clients are now like, well, we're not sure, maybe, and we're seeing a pre-kind of SICC approval of crypto happening here, where someone says, yeah, this is the right way to go, and then suddenly all these corporates are like, actually, that's a great idea, let's do that. I wonder why we haven't thought of that 10 years ago.
Yes.
So are you seeing that happening now, where this is getting legitimized, and now suddenly it becomes more mainstream?
Yeah. I think thankfully, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, his podcast is so well and so big, Travis Kelce, and they're having Leonardo DiCaprio, his first podcast ever. It was still a virtual podcast, so I don't really count it. But we don't do virtual. We might be drunk. We won't do virtual. Yeah. Maybe Leo, if you're watching, come on. So I think that it's great that it's legitimizing it, and it's becoming more of a respected medium, and it's still got a ways to go before it's something that people prefer over a TV show. For people still go on like the Sherry Shepherd show. No shade to Sherry Shepherd. I'm sure her show is great, but like we're going to get more views. If Leonardo DiCaprio comes on our show versus Sherry Shepherd, you're going to get more views. So I don't understand why they don't do it. That's a whole conversation. It's like retraining an entire industry to like, this is important.
To value podcast and podcasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned before when we touched upon the scale and what would happen with Gotham back in 2020 if there was no COVID, which is impossible world to imagine today. But and then you referred that there is a number of podcast studios around town now, right? So we're all seeing it. In Dubai, I have no less than 50 other podcast
There's
studios.
a couple on this block, I'm sure.
So thinking about scale became a different type of question now. Where do you see the scale of this business model moving forward? And what is the key set of skills and services that a business of this kind would need to have in order to win 3 years down the road? Is it about producing your original shows and winning on that front? Will there be volume of this type moving forward? In Dubai, we are now peaking with the volume. Will this continue around the world as well? Will people continue searching and demanding this type of video content, or will be focused more on a smaller number of shows that are generating a lot of views and attention? What future would you bet on 3 years from now when it comes to the business model?
As far as for like where Gotham is positioning itself is more quality, and I think that was kind of the big change from moving after COVID was quantity was our game at that point, and moving towards quality. And I think that there's going to be a lot of small one-room studios and things like that that'll pop up, and maybe they'll be successful for a little bit, but it's hard to expand now to multi-room studios, multi-floors, things like that. So the studio model itself is a difficult one. There's even days here where there'll be a couple recordings and we have empty studios. So it's not we're not fully sold out every day, but that gives us the ability to do more original content and more in-house things and more originals and more things that we own. And I think putting our name and owning things is going to be more important to us rather than having a background seat. I don't want to be in the background of podcasting anymore. We want to be in the foreground. And I think that's been a goal of Brianna's this year, is instead of working in the business is working on the business. And she's been doing a great job of that and just putting herself out there and just being more of like you said earlier, like Gotham is not these microphones, it's not those cameras, it's not this floor, it's us to a degree, and more Brianna, because I don't like to talk very much, even though I've talked a lot today, and you'll see tomorrow that I'm very quiet. But I think that it's more important for people to buy in on people rather than a business. And that's our focus going forward is producing quality content, owning a piece of that. You know, like if we're going to put a wish and a prayer that something's going to be turned into a movie, we want to own 10% of that. So when it gets bought by Paramount, we get a piece of that. So owning content, producing original in-house stuff that we have control over, and we understand that it's going to be quality, and then also like being industry leaders and coaching and helping other people that want to be in this industry in some way or another. And even beyond that, like, you know, Brianna's a successful business owner for 8 years. And so she's got a lot to tell people. And I love seeing that her share that information with people that may not be in the podcast space and just are general entrepreneurs. So I think that's our focus going forward.
Yeah, essentially now the podcast studio is funding our other endeavors that we're going into. The podcast studio is not our main focus to grow and scale anymore. It's the thing that allows us to do other things.
Yeah, but it's also sort of a funnel for the creators, right?
Yeah.
If there was no podcast studios, your access to talent would be...
Exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the amount of, like, what was it? This summer we were the podcast Two Bears, One Cave on Your Mom's House Studio, our network. They recorded their summer series here. And that only happened because Tom Segura was a guest on We Might Be Drunk, and he was waiting for the elevator, and I said, hey, do you need a studio for this summer? And he said, yeah. And so, you know, every time somebody comes in the doors, there's somebody that we can build a relationship with. Madison Square Garden. I recorded a podcast with the guy that runs the production company that records their show in like 2022, and we spent like an hour just talking. It was like we did this podcast like there. We were just talking about podcasting industry, and then 2 years later, he sends me a message on LinkedIn and says, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast for MSG. Can we do it at your studio?" Sure. So it's more of just building relationships and like building those having those conversations with people that you don't know where they're going to go. I remember the first email I got from you guys about Podyx, and I was like, "Oh my God. Dubai? What time do I have to go wake up to have a phone call with Dubai?" Like I think our first meeting was like at for you guys it was probably like 5 o'clock in the morning, but for us it was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I gotta wake up so early to have a conversation about who is this company. And I'm very happy we connected and we're able to work together and be a small piece of what Podyx is today and how our clients love it and they really enjoy working on the platform, and it just looks so nice, and it's just a breath of fresh air, being able to have this conversation even.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
So thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, thanks for taking the chance.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. I love the story. I think you're spot on. I think the future is in quality.
Yeah.
I think definitely future is in quality, but there is obviously a lot of opportunities around. There's corporate, etc. There is a lot of markets that are picking up. I mean, in Dubai, you mentioned you have 100 million downloads for one show. I think if you put all of the shows together in Dubai, we don't have 100 million. So the quality is still to be reached, and to reach quality, I think you need quantity. You need a lot of people producing in order to find someone who is going to succeed. Guys, thank you for having us. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll catch you tomorrow on stage. I think an exciting moment for the industry.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks.